Hey, what's up guys? It's Pedro here from NoobCoder.com, and in this tutorial I want to talk about string concatenation as well as escape characters. Now, believe it or not, we've already dealt with strings, and that's when we printed hello world onto the console. So if I say sys out and say hello world, this is a string. This is a string literal because we're not saving it in a variable. Now, I didn't cover string in the last tutorial because string is a class, it's not a primitive data type. But it pretty much works the same way as far as variable decoration goes. So I just say the type, which is a string, and let's say I say first name, and I assign that a value of Pedro, right? And now I create a second variable, and I could say string last name. And I could say Mercado. Now, by the way, this is not my real name. These are totally fake, so don't worry about it. Now, I could create a new string and say string full name. Now, this is where string concatenation comes in. So string concatenation is just adding two strings together. So I can say first name plus, and that's how you concatenate strings, a string literal with a space in it, and that's because I want a space between first name and last name, plus last name. And that. And now if I do sys out, full name, Control S, run it, you can see that we just added our first and last name, and we stored it in a variable called full name. So now let's talk about escape characters. Actually, let's talk about something really quick. Let's say I wanted to add a number, like I wanted to say Pedro, Mercado, and just 1, 2, 3. How would I go about doing that? Well, I could just say plus 1, 2, 3. Control S to save and run it. Now, what you might be thinking is, you just said 5 seconds ago that string concatenation is basically adding two strings together. But 1, 2, 3 isn't of type string. 1, 2, 3 is of type int. So how is this happening? Without going too much into detail, what's actually happening is there's something called wrapper classes, because a int is a primitive data type. So I could say integer dot to string, and this accepts an int 1, 2, 3. Let's just exit that. So this is what's happening internally. So Java, without you even knowing it, is converting this int into a string. And in the upcoming tutorials, we'll talk more about it when we learn about classes and methods. So this will look foreign to you, but I assure you it's consistent. So if you're sitting to yourself and saying, hey, you're adding a string and an int together, you just said you can only add two strings. Internally, Java is doing something. And the last point I want to make in this tutorial, let's say I add another sys out, and I have a string literal, and now I want to quote something. I want to say Pedro said, and then I want two quotes, I love chicken. Now, you might say this is a stupid example, but why am I getting an error? Right? I want to print Pedro said, quote, and then just print that to the console. But you see that we can't do that. So there's something called escape characters. So in order to use this quote here and this quote here, I have to add a /. So I add a forward slash there and a forward slash here. Control S, hit the run button, and you see I have I love chicken. Now another escape character is called the tab character. So let's say I want a tab here. I just do forward slash and T. Control S, run it. And you can see that it added a tab. So there are a bunch of escape characters. I'm not going to go over all of them. But let's give 2 more examples. Let's say I want a new line after Pedro, and I want a new line after Said. So I want Pedro to print on his own line, Said to print on his own line, and I love chicken to print on its own line. I could say forward slash N, and forward slash N means print this out, and then I want a new line. And I could say forward slash N, print this out, I want a new line. And if I run it, you'll see that we get exactly what we want. And the tab is only affecting Pedro because that's the only one I put it on. If I put a tab here, you would see that they would all indent. And last but not least, let's give one more. Let's say I want this character for some reason. You can see that we're already getting an error. Well, we could escape out of that and put double forward slash. Let's run it. And you'll see that we get our forward slash. So that's about it for this tutorial. I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Like, comment, subscribe.